what she endured.
I'm going to come back to this.
Caleb, starting the ignition, pulling out the digital voice recorder, placing it on the console.
Current time, 7:07 p.m. You ready?
You probably prepared much more assiduously than I did. It'll be an interesting experiment. I'm totally open to it bombing.
I want to have a good time.
How so?
No kids for 4 days. Something to take advantage of.
We'll walk, talk, read, cook. I think if we try too hard to have some point-by-point debate, it'll turn out quite stilted. How did you explain this to your parents, your wife? That we're going to go to a cabin for 4 days to yell at each other, and out of that we'll try to produce a My Dinner with Andre-like exchange? Did that make any sense to them?
My dad thinks My Dinner with Andre is about two homos. I told him it's not.
He's homophobic?
He's old school, military, was in Vietnam, but My Dinner with Andre is nothing like us. Andre talks 95% of the time as Wally makes quizzical facial expressions.
Yeah, but it's an argument about two opposed modes of being. Wally seeks comfort, Andre seeks discomfort, and they wind up ever so slightly changing positions. Same thing although of course you end up becoming yourself. Somehow, when David Foster Wallace slides the tape recorder over to Lipsky's side of the table, the tectonic plates shift. Not sure how. It's beautiful. I definitely want to have an interesting conversation, but the goal, to me, is to come out of this with a book, no?
Why don't you commit suicide in the next year?
Then we'd have a book for sure. Christ, you were my student when? 20 years ago or more.
From 88 to 91.
And here we are, chatting. I wonder what it is about us that gets in the other's grill.
Who knows? I never read more than one book by my other ex-teachers, but I've read all yours. I know a lot about you. You know very little about me, so I want to tell my story. I like interviewing people like you, Eula Biss, Ander Monson, Lydia Yuknovich, Peter Montford, but I'd much rather converse. When I met Peter, we just agreed, fuck it, let's have another beer and finish this up online.
Bring in as much of yourself as possible. I want this to be an absolutely equal battle. Let's make it so it's not one-sided, not, okay, David, tell me what you think about this.
Damn straight. Enough about David. You're too academic. Who's lived the more interesting life?
I don't accept the premise of the question.
Terry knows about what we're doing, but not everything.
Meaning?
You said you wanted homoerotic tension. Were you hitting on me?
No. So far as I know, I'm 100% straight. I just thought it might be good subtext to layer in. I'm sure it seems weird, two guys spending 4 days together in the mountains.
You're married, one kid. You wouldn't be the first in that situation with a secret life, fishing, throwing out a few gay-friendly hints. So you say this, and I'm thinking, maybe he's attracted to me, and I'm flattered. But Terry calls this date weekend with David Shields.
You don't want her to freak out.
That's not the half of it. When she was still in college, she married this guy, Mark, who had his shit together, was in business, loved sports. They divorced after a year. A few months later, he came out.
Whoa.
She doesn't like talking about it. I want to pick at the scabs of experience. Mine, hers. She said it was traumatic. It was relatively early in the era of AIDS. Mark had said he never cheated on her, but she didn't know. She thought she could have AIDS. Mark's dad had even died of AIDS. Her parents are liberal, but there are grandparents, aunts, uncles. People made a lot of comments. There was a stigma that, no matter how absurd the accusation is, she had made Mark gay. That she'd failed.
If she were sexier, she would have converted him.
Mark married a Korean guy. They adopted a kid. I've met Mark, and he sent gifts for our kids. Nice guy. Aside from the basics, though, I've gotten hardly anything from Terry except an offhand detail.
Maybe she's waiting to write about it herself.
She's not the type. But she's always asking questions, suggesting fantasies, wanting to know if I've ever kissed a man if I ever wanted to. If I had the opportunity, would I? I'll say, only accidentally. When I told her I was going to spend 4 days with you in Skykomish, she asked, what would you do if he told you that he could guarantee you getting published, and then he made a move on you? I said, you trying to mark me?
That's a great line in about 11 different ways.